Hi everyone, welcome back to another lesson of Russian for Beginners. Today we're going to be learning how to put verbs into the past tense. This is super useful for speaking Russian and thankfully it's not too difficult either. So let's get started. These are some verbs that we've come across in previous lessons that we're going to be working with again today. As you can see, I've written them in the imperfective and perfective forms of the verbs, and then I've put their past tense stems as well. So I'll just read through these now. We have знать, узнать, понимать, понять, работать, поработать, вспоминать, вспомнить, говорить, сказать, любить, полюбить, ходить, сходить, закрывать, закрыть, проходить, пройти, смотреть, посмотреть, видеть, увидеть, делать, сделать, слушать, послушать, спать, поспать, читать, прочитать. Excellent. So you'll notice that there are two words here highlighted in a different colour, and that's just because their perfective form takes on a slightly different meaning to their imperfective counterpart, but we're going to worry about that later on in our lesson on aspect. Just two things that I wanted to mention here. The past tense, thankfully, there are fewer irregularities than in the present tense in Russian, so it's kind of easier to get your head around. But here I just wanted to point out two irregularities that we have in the past tense stems. So the first one is just a stress change with понимать and понять, the verb to understand. So you'll notice that in brackets we have the word поняла, поняла, and that's the feminine past tense. But for the masculine, neuter and plural forms of the verbs, then the stress is going to be on the first vowel. So it's понял, поня is the stem. The second irregularity that I wanted to mention is with the verb проходить, пройти, and that's just a spelling change. So you'll notice that the stem itself is irregular. It's prash is the stem, and that's for the feminine, neuter and plural. So it's prashla, prashlo, prashli, but we'll get onto that in a second. And the masculine takes a slightly different ending than it usually would, and it's прошел, прошел. So we can move on from here. Here we have the past tense endings that you can tag onto the verb stems to create a verb in the past tense. As you can see, it's quite different from how present tense verbs are formed, and there are fewer endings to add on. So how it works is if you have a masculine noun or person as the subject of the sentence, the person who's carrying out the verb, then you add on a masculine ending. For example, брат читал, the brother, and then we have the verb читать, take off T and the soft sign and add on the L. Читать, чита, читал, брат читал. Similarly with feminine nouns, you add on la. Девочка читала, девочка читала, девочка читала, and then it's just the same for the neuter and the plural. We're going to start with the words читать and прочитать. So just a quick note on aspect, even though I will go into greater detail on the differences between imperfective and perfective in my lesson on aspect, just here it's important to note that прочитать in the past tense means you kind of finished reading, and читать means more like he or she or they were reading or in the process of reading. Okay, so let's just go through these example sentences. Ты прочитала книгу. Ты прочитала книгу. So you can see the ending there is la, and therefore it's directed towards a woman or someone who identifies as a woman. Did you read the book, or did you finish reading the book? Did you read the whole book? Ты прочитала книгу. Он читал газету. Он читал газету. He read the newspaper or he was reading the newspaper. Мы читали календар. Мы читали календар. So that li, is going to be plural. We read, or we were reading, the calendar. Мы читали календар. Finally, вы прочитали документы. So because it's вы, and вы can be either formal or plural, it takes the li, it takes the plural ending. Вы прочитали документы. Did you, either formal or plural, read the documents? So even though it is plural, прочитали, it can be directed towards one person if the speaker is trying to be formal. So it's not necessarily plural, but the вы takes a plural ending. And it means more, did you finish reading the documents? Okay, let's move on to our next verb. Now we're going to take a look at the verb проходить, пройти. So if you'll just look at this first sentence we have, время прошло. So that's from the perfective form of пройти, and it goes to прошло for the neuter. Время прошло. Next, время быстро проходило. Время быстро проходило. So быстро means quickly, and проходило is the past tense of проходить. So we have time passed, or time was passing quickly. Next, моя любовь прошла. Моя is the possessive pronoun, my. Моя любовь, the feminine noun for love. Прошла. Here we have пройти in the past tense with the feminine ending. Моя любовь прошла. My love passed. Мужчина прошел мимо магазина. So мужчина is quite an interesting word because it declines like a feminine noun, but the adjectives which describe it and the verbs that it's the subject of, they treat this noun as masculine. So on the outside to the adjectives and to the verbs, it's masculine, but on the inside it declines, as a feminine noun. So here we have прошел. That's the past tense masculine form of пройти. Мужчина прошел мимо магазина. And this word мимо just means past or by. Мимо магазина. So we'll discuss that in the lesson on the genitive case, because magazina here has to go into the genitive, but okay. So the man passed by the shop. Мужчина прошел мимо магазина. Finally, боль не проходила. So боль is a feminine noun, and that's why you use the feminine ending on проходить here. Боль не проходила. And that's kind of a depressing sentence, meaning the pain wasn't going away. Боль не проходила. And you use проходила because it's kind of a longer process, but again, we'll discuss that in more detail later. Now, if you're up for it, we have a quick fill in the gaps exercise, so feel free to pause your video and write out the answers. I'm just going to go through them now. So we have the first sentence, дети, and then the verb вспомнить, место. Remember, дети is in the plural, it means children. Дети, so it will go to вспомнили место. The children remembered the place. Девочка, and then the verb увидеть in the past tense. Его. Его is the personal pronoun meaning him. It's in the accusative because it's the object of this sentence. So the girl saw him. That's why it's in the accusative. Девочка увидела его. Они любили спать. They loved to sleep. Мать послушала новую музыку. Again, this is in the accusative because it's the object of the sentence. Ученик понимал ее. Ее meaning her in the accusative. Время спало. Время спало. Remember that that last O is pronounced more like an A because the stress here falls on the first A. So it's спало, спало. Папа закрыл дверь. So papa and mужчина here, as I mentioned before, they're quite special nouns because intrinsically they decline as feminine nouns, but the verbs that they command and the adjectives that describe them are all masculine. So papa takes the masculine ending, закрыл дверь. Dad closed the door. Similarly, мужчина смотрел телевизор. The man watched or was watching the TV. Finally, мы смотрели на их дом. Ich is the possessive pronoun for their. We looked at their house. Мы смотрели на их дом. So well done if you got any of those right. Let's move on. So in the last slide, we briefly touched on personal pronouns when we came across его and ее. So we're just going to have a quick revision of these pronouns and how they're used before we move on. So quickly need to mention that in English, word order basically reflects this meaning of the nominative and the accusative. So if you had, for instance, you saw the man, then you are the one doing the seeing because you comes before the verb to see. Whereas if you had the man saw you, then you would be the thing being seen. And that's kind of word order that has a lot to do with that. But in Russian, it's mostly shown through the form of the pronoun. So ты goes to тебя. So in you saw the man, you would be ты, but in the man saw you, you would be тебя. Okay, so я goes to меня, when меня is the object. Ты to тебя. Он and оно both go to его. But here's just a quick thing I need to mention. If the word coming before его ends with a vowel, then you add this N in brackets to make all of the sounds really clear. And we're going to go into more examples on this in the next slide, so don't worry about it too much right now. But yeah, that's a very important thing to mention. So она goes to ее, but if the word before ends in a vowel, then it is неё, неё, and него. Then мы goes to нас, вы goes to вас, and они similarly goes to ich, but if the word before ends in a vowel, then it goes to них. Okay, so let's look at some examples. We're just going to practice conjugating the verb смотреть, посмотреть, with some pronouns and some other nouns as well. So let's look at these two first sentences. We have мы смотрели телевизор. We were watching, or we watched the television. Девочка посмотрела на здание. Девочка посмотрела на здание. The girl looked at the building. Remember, посмотреть на has more the meaning of looked at. Девочка посмотрела на здание. Okay, here we have a fun list of personal pronouns in the accusative case to practice writing those. So the first sentence is он смотрел на меня. Он смотрел на меня. He looked at me. Она смотрела на него. Now, because na ends with a vowel, you need to put the N there to make the sounds clearer, because на его might be a bit unclear, it might not convey the meaning as well. So на него is nice and clear and everyone understands what's going on. Она смотрела на него. She looked at him. Similarly, я смотрел на нее. Я смотрел на нее. And remember, you would be a man saying this, or identify as a man because it ends with the masculine ending. Я смотрел на нее. Вы смотрели на нас. Вы смотрели на нас. You looked at us. Мы смотрели на вас. Мы смотрели на вас. We looked at you. There's a lot of looking going on here. Они смотрели на тебя. Они смотрели на тебя. They looked at you. And lastly, я смотрела на них. Я смотрела на них. I looked at them. Okay, wonderful, well done. So that's all we're going to do today. I hope it was useful and you can now fully conjugate verbs in the past tense. If you have any questions at all or any comments, then please leave them in the comments section. And if you're really feeling eager, then you could press that like and subscribe button, but no pressure. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day and do svidaniya.